If you ask somebody today what the largest animal of all time was, they'd probably say the blue whale. And weighing up to 190 tons, there are few animals alive today that come even close to the size of a blue whale. However, if we look into natural history, we can find various animals that throw into question the status of the blue whale as the largest animal to ever live. Hi, I'm Petrified, and today we're going to be taking a look at the various animals in natural history that may have rivaled the blue whale in size or even outclassed it, going from smallest to largest. Let's start with a marine reptile, Shonosaurus sicaniensis. Shonosaurus was a giant ichthyosaur, a marine reptile that looked a bit like a mashup between a dolphin and a beluga whale, with a long snout, big flippers, and a deep, torpedo-shaped body. It cruised the ancient oceans as one of the top predators of its time. This is one of the rare cases where we actually have a very complete specimen of a giant animal, which means its size is not just a wild guess. The best specimen suggests a length of about 21 meters. At first glance, 21 meters doesn't sound like it beats a blue whale, and it doesn't, but where Shonosaurus gets interesting is its body shape. It wasn't quite as long as a blue whale, it wasn't a long snake-like reptile. Instead, it had a thick barrel-shaped torso. The ribs were spread out and wide, giving it a lot of internal volume. When you turn that volume into mass, you get an estimate of roughly 80 tons. It's not breaking any records, but it's close enough that it is in the same size category. It shows that ichthyosaurs could reach similar sizes to the titans of today. Next up, we have Ichthyotitan severnensis. Ichthyotitan was an enormous, streamlined ichthyosaur with a long pointed snout, large eyes, and a powerful tail, with a similar build to the previous animal, Shonosaurus. This was a much more recent discovery from the UK, and it immediately grabbed attention. The fossils are mostly huge jaw fragments, but even those are enough to tell us that we're dealing with a serious giant. When those jaw pieces are scaled against other ichthyosaurs, you get a total body length of around 25 meters. That is right in the same range of the average adult blue whale. Already that's impressive, but there's a key detail making it even more interesting. This individual was subadult. It hadn't finished growing. Based on its size and proportions, the mass of this particular specimen comes out in the range of about 80 to 100 tons. So if you have a teenager ichthyosaur that is already roughly the same size and length of an average blue whale, it strongly suggests that fully grown adults of this species could have gone significantly further. A mature ichthyotitan could plausibly have reached 120 or even 140 tons, depending on how its growth curve worked. That would push it to the upper end of blue whale sizes, and possibly over the line. It's one of the best examples we have of an extinct marine reptile that doesn't just approach the blue whale, but it actually starts to compete with it directly. Argentinosaurus huinculensis. Argentinosaurus was a colossal long-necked sauropod with a huge barrel-shaped body, a relatively thick neck, and massive column-like legs holding everything off the ground. Argentinosaurus is one of the most famous giant sauropod dinosaurs, and for good reason. Even though it's known from partial remains, those bones are incredibly large and complete, enough so that paleontologists have a decent handle on its overall size. Most estimates put Argentinosaurus at around 30 to 35 meters long and roughly 80 to 100 tons in mass. That means that in terms of length, it's actually longer than the average blue whale. In terms of weight, it stacks up well with the average adult blue whale, even though it doesn't reach the absolute maximum of 190 tons. What makes this so impressive is that Argentinosaurus wasn't supported by water. All that weight was carried on 4 limbs. Its skeleton had to be incredibly efficient. Hollowed out vertebrae with internal air spaces reduced the weight, thick pillar-like legs to hold the load, and a long neck that was carefully balanced by the tail. As a land animal, Argentinosaurus is about as close as you can reasonably get to the blue whale's mass without the help of buoyancy. Puertosaurus rayoli was another gigantic titanosaur with a similar amount of bulk and weight as the Argentinosaurus. Puertosaurus is known from only a few bones, but one of them is a gigantic vertebrae from the back that is 1.68 meters wide. It is the broadest vertebrae of any living being to ever exist. It's wider than most people are tall, and tells us a lot about how this animal was built. Puertosaurus likely reached similar lengths and weights to Argentinosaurus at around 30 to 35 meters long and 80 to 100 tons. Supersaurus vivianae. Supersaurus was an extremely long and elegant sauropod. with a narrow body, a whip-like tail, and a neck that seemed to stretch on endlessly. Its proportions were all about length rather than bulk, giving it a silhouette that looked almost unreal. A cervical vertebrae now officially assigned to Supersaurus confirms just how extreme this animal's dimensions were. Scaling from that vertebrae, Supersaurus may have reached lengths from 42 to 50 meters. This would make it the longest animal to ever walk the planet. Even the longest blue whale ever recorded at 33 meters would look short next to a fully grown Supersaurus. However, despite this extraordinary length, Supersaurus was not especially heavy. Most mass estimates place it between 60 and 90 tons, meaning that while it would absolutely destroy a blue whale in length, the average blue whale would still outweigh it. Supersaurus holds the crown for extreme linear size, but not overall mass. Breviparopus tagbalautensis. Breviparopus is an extremely questionable contender, since it's only known from gigantic fossil footprints, but based on these tracks, it would have likely been an incredibly large animal worth mentioning. The spacing between the footprints suggests an animal at around 48 meters long, putting it right up there with the longest animals to have ever existed. Most reconstructions put its mass at around 80 to 100 tons. That means that once again it overlaps with the average blue whale in terms of weight, and massively exceeds it in length. However, obviously these numbers are to be taken with a grain of salt, considering we only have its footprints. Marapunosaurus fragilimus. Marapunosaurus, if reconstructed correctly, was a huge sauropod with a very tall vertebrae and high-rising backbone. Marapunosaurus sits in a strange place between legend and reality. It was originally described in the 19th century from a single gigantic vertebra that has since been lost, which makes it hard to verify. Early estimates of its size were so huge that they bordered on impossible, but more modern analyses have scaled it down to something still enormous, but not absurd. Current reconstructions tend to put Marapunosaurus at around 30 to 32 meters in length, with a mass somewhere between 80 and 120 tons. At the lower end of that range, it's in the territory of Argentinosaurus and Puertosaurus. At the upper end, it actually exceeds the average blue whale and gets closer to the largest individuals. Because the actual fossil is gone, there will always be uncertainty here, but if the original description was accurate, then Marapunosaurus was one of the few land animals that could realistically approach or even overlap with the blue whale's mass, not just length. Perucetus colossus. Perucetus was an early whale with a short body and incredibly dense bones, giving it a compact but extremely heavy build. Perucetus is one of the strangest animals on this list. It's an early whale from Peru, and it completely breaks our expectations about what a whale's skeleton should look like. Its vertebrae and ribs are extremely dense and heavy, and have almost no internal cavities. This makes them much heavier than the bones of modern whales. In terms of length, Perucetus was not especially impressive, around 17 to 20 meters long, which is smaller than a typical adult blue whale, and even smaller than some juvenile blue whales. But because of its bizarrely dense skeleton and likely robust body, the mass estimates are enormous. The original study suggested a possible mass of up to 340 tons. That would make Perucetus almost twice as heavy as the largest known blue whale, which raised understandable skepticism. Later critiques argued for more conservative values, suggesting a more conservative range of about 60 to 120 tons. But even the conservative upper end would make it competitive with an average adult blue whale. So, depending on which estimates you used, Perucetus is either just comparable to a blue whale or massively heavier than any animal we've ever confirmed. Either way, it shows that body density matters just as much as length, especially when we talk about the largest animals of all time. Bruhathcaiosaurus matley. If we're looking for a land animal that can actually push blue whale numbers, Bruhathcaiosaurus is one of the only serious candidates, including a tibia that was reportedly around 2 meters long. The fossils themselves have been lost or destroyed, which complicates things, but the descriptions and published measurements do still exist. Scaled as a large titanosaur, Bruhathcaiosaurus has been estimated at around 40 to 45 meters in length and a weight of 110 to 170 tons. If we take that 170 ton estimate seriously, we have a land animal that is clearly heavier than the average blue whale, and not too far off the 190-ton record holder. That would make Bruhathcaiosaurus one of the closest rivals to the blue whale in terms of total mass, the big caveat being the quality and survival of the original material. But if the numbers are accurate, this was a genuine contender for the blue whale. Ostcolossus. The animal nicknamed Ostcolossus was an enormous ichthyosaur, probably similar in overall shape to other giant ichthyosaurs. The so-called Ostcolossus from the UK represents one of the most extreme marine reptiles ever proposed. It's known from jaw fragments that are even larger than those of Ichthyotitan, and when you scale those to whole body proportions, you get an animal around 30 to 35 meters long. Unlike sauropods, ichthyosaurs had solid, dense skeletons and heavily muscled bodies adapted for powerful swimming. A 35-meter ichthyosaur built on that template is estimated to weigh over 200 tons. That's not just comparable to a blue whale, it exceeds the largest confirmed blue whale on record. If these estimates turned out to be realistic, Ostcolossus would be one of the strongest contenders for the title of heaviest marine reptile, and one of the first animals that clearly beats the blue whale on its own turf, both longer and heavier. Hector's ichthyosaur. Hector's ichthyosaur, if it really existed, as described, would have been gigantic. Hector's ichthyosaur is based on a lost vertebrae from New Zealand with a diameter of about 457 millimeters. If that measurement is correct and it really belonged to an ichthyosaur, then when you scale the rest of the animal, you would get a length of 42 meters. A 42-meter marine reptile would not just be a bit heavier than a blue whale, it would be vastly heavier, in the range of 300 tons or more. That would be equivalent to 3 average-sized blue whales. However, this is an extremely speculative case, and it's the last animal on this list, as the material has been lost for many years, and so the probability of this being a verified giant is very low, but it's still worth mentioning considering we do have some measurements remaining. So, after looking at all these animals, can we still say the blue whale is the heaviest animal of all time? It's up for interpretation. If you consider the material we have of some of these animals to be sufficient, then you could make the argument that there were larger beings alive. Let us know in the comments what you believe was the largest animal of all time.